Hello, everyone. Hello, and welcome to today's show. They really love you all today. Take a moment, and our lovely ladies will introduce themselves. Miss Jackson, Tavonna.
Good afternoon. Miss Jackson's here.
Hey y'all, it's Tavonna. Thank y'all for joining us on, is it Monday?
Yep.
It is. On this big Monday. So we're normally with y'all on Friday. So take the ride with us today on this marvelous Monday.
All right, we're going to jump right into it. Today we will discuss information sharing with parents. What are do's and don'ts when it comes to talking to your parents? I want to hear from the ladies what the ladies have to say. And if you all need a little backstory on what sparked this, a friend of mine, we were talking about sex, as an adult. They were in their 30s and they made a comment that her mom thinks that she's a virgin. And I'm like, are you serious? And they yes. And this person had disclosed that they had, at least 10 partners over their, in their lifetime, which isn't anything at age 30. But I'm like, your mom thinks you're a virgin. And the person that I was discussing it with was like, well, yeah, I understand that. That we don't do that up here in the area where they lived. I won't say the area, but the area where she lived, she said we don't do that.
I think we kind of need the area for context. I mean, just like, I'm serious because it is, these type of things can be demographical,
Right. That's what I want to know. And I learned that.
Right. I'm not trying to know who she is or whatever, but I think a north, south, east, west, whatever, northwest, whatever, because I mean that makes a difference.
They're in the South.
Okay.
They're in the South, and they said we don't do that around here. And she was agreeing with what the other person said. She was like, yeah, we don't do that around here. And I'm like, well, hopefully the parents are wise enough to know that you all are engaging. He was like, well, we don't discuss that. We never disclose or talk about things like that. And one young lady stated that she's dating someone from Charleston. And she said, yeah, y'all are different down here. I was like, well, yeah, we are. Like, that's like open discussion. And I don't know. I never thought about the disparity. So I would like to know what the ladies have to say. And is it something you think exclusive to your family or related to the area, your demographics?
I think it is the area, and I also think it's gender, because I know you could sit back and smoke a cigar with your dad and talk about, all your bust downs over your life. It's just not something I wish to talk about with my mother. I mean, I'm in the South as well. It's almost like the old school military. Don't ask, don't tell. So my mom, she probably thinks I'm a virgin too. I have one son, and it just happened by like the married. I just, miraculous conception, because I just don't have those conversations with my mom. If my dad was still here, I definitely wouldn't have it with him. And I'm a real private person, so I don't even have those conversations with my friends either. So.
Oh, you made a good point. You did make a good point. And for me, yeah, my dad and I, we like, that's my best friend. So we do share a lot. I remember not dating, working with this fine girl. And I think I don't know what was going on. Our shifts were changing or something. And I know she shared a picture with me. And man, I took the picture of Charleston and showed it to my dad, like, check this out, bro. And, he hid it in one of his Bibles and he still has it 20 years later. But
Yeah, I think it has all to do, it starts way earlier than your 20s and 30s, most definitely.
right.
If you weren't have open, honest conversations with your parents as a child, then you're not going to have them with your parents as an adult. So like my mom was and this is really unfortunate, I think, for some women, because by their period, they come home bleeding one day and don't know what was happening to them, right? Because it was taboo. The mamas didn't say anything because their mamas didn't say anything. it happened and be like, hey, you know what I'm saying? That's unfortunate. But mom was like at 7 and 8 sitting and saying, here's this book and this is this and this is that and this is what's going to happen. And I don't know when it's going to happen, but it's coming. So for me, from the age of like 8, I was just like waiting, like, when is it coming? When is it coming? Because I was informed. I knew, you know what I'm saying? And so it wasn't, I ever felt like I had to hide, even now. And now that I'm 44, like me and my dad, like my dad is like, he know way too much. He will be like, I can't believe you say that to your dad. And I'm like, what? Everything. Now my mom, same thing, but I kind of reserve certain things for her only because it's just sometimes I don't want to hear her mouth. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because it gets a little bit judgy. You know what I'm saying? For me. So it's not that I can't. It's just that
Your phone went out.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's something that I think is going to spark a 15 conversation that I don't want to have about what I should and shouldn't do, then I might not say nothing. You know what I'm saying? But it's not that I can't. It's more that I won't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but again, I had that open, honest conversations with my parents, like from a kid. You know what I mean? So we knew about sex. And so we didn't feel like we had to hide that kind of stuff.
So did you share your first experience with your parent?
I didn't just say, hey, I did this. Like, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't that. It was just,
Over time.
I just never, it's like, it was something like if they would have asked, I would have said, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? But it wasn't like something to come home, hey, guess what? Like, you know what I'm
Right. I
saying?
get it today.
But, right, yeah. But they knew I had, and they knew I was going out and about, you know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't. But then once I got pregnant with my daughter and I came home and I was like, hey, guess what? Pregnant. And then it was just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, you know what I'm saying?
But you were grown
So, of
then.
course, I was 20, but you know what I'm saying? But yeah, but then after that, then it was just like open season. And like my dad, he'd be like, when I was married, he'd be like, all right, well, we gonna take kids so y'all can do what y'all need to do. And I'd be like, who says that? Like, what is, like,
I'm over here playing. I was
who says that? Like, who's thinking about their daughter? Like,
But
who just want their daughter to get bust open? Like, that's just insane to me. Even like to this day, I'd be like, bro, you gotta relax. Like, but that's just how we are. You know what I'm saying? And so, because it's not something that's hidden.
so I want to hear Mr. Be Great. What do you have to say about this?
My family and I, we're very private people, and my dad and I, we didn't talk about the birds and the bees until like way late. Like I was in my 20s. Like, Dad, really? Yeah. So I'm 43 now. We're just now really having a conversation where we can really talk about certain things. So I guess it really depends on the family. But as far as let my mom and dad know what I'm doing, not sexually. Mm-mm.
This is just, what's the good word I'm looking for? It's astonishing to me because I think, like we talked about demographical in our area, we talk about these things. Nicole, share with us. We're talking about information sharing with your parents, and in this case, specifically sex.
Oh
And
yeah, that's wide open. That's a wide open talk. I mean, me and my mom talk like sisters.
we're
Personally,
different.
I'm gonna share a little secret about anal sex. I mentioned that to my mom one day, and she said, "Oh my God, you are so nasty. That's the exit only." I said, "Well, I gotta get off the phone because we going to get this thing done." She's like, "Bye bye, get off my phone, get off my phone." She hung up. You know, she didn't answer. She didn't question me when I call her back. You know, my dad tells me what all the women's, he's had, and he had a bad hemorrhoid and it caused him some, sexual issues. He no longer does that. And he's like, this thing don't owe me nothing. I've had my days. And he's a minister. I mean, he's a pastor for years. So, I mean, we are grown. Me and my mom discuss more than me and my dad, just because I'm a daddy's girl. But me and my mom, oh, it goes back. It was never bird and the bees. It was, P&D. You can catch disease. If you do this, you're going to get pregnant. Blasey, blasey, blasey. So there's no secret when it comes to my parents and sexual activities and things like that, which I love it. I mean,
Yeah, I share the same. So, I was a baby and my sister had my nephew when I was in the 6th grade. So we already knew about, of course, talking about sex and pregnancies and things like that. And even before my sister had my nephew, my mom would talk to her about, you know, you like to hang, because my sister would go down to my aunt's house, or my paternal grandmother's house, so she could go out with her boyfriend. And my mom would always tell her, all right, if behind gets pregnant, you're going to take care of the child yourself and blah, blah, blah. And you know what y'all are doing and things like that. And, my dad, he had a stash of porn tapes. He knew we watched the tapes, and, he'd make little comments to let us know that he knew, but he knew we were exposed to. And I don't know. Some people would say it was inappropriate, but like we went to vacation Bible school, and this is crazy thinking back now, that Bible school. But girls coming down from up north in the summer. That was the biggest thing in the summer. Girls visiting their grandparents, going to vacation Bible school, you trying to holler. And my dad would be like, hey, oh, you saw that little one? Or such and such came home, or you try to talk to her, or yeah, y'all going up there and asking, y'all got condoms? So, when I did start, yeah, I would tell my dad and get into detail with him about it. So to hear that adults never discussed that with their parents was foreign to me. Not that it's a bad thing. It was just foreign to me. And I wondered, like, how does that work? Like, how do you act around your parents knowing you can't say something? Like, do you act like a saint around your parents? Do you act like you're not sexually act like, what is that like?
So for me, I'll say it's not that you're trying to act. It's just not something that I would have brought up to begin with. Like when I'm with my mom, I'm not even thinking about, sex or sex I had. It's just not something
Well, let me ask
that
you.
I don't share with anyone. But
What
yeah, I just
about,
wanted to something else to bring up with her.
what about PDA around your parents?
It's awkward for me, but I think like Tavonna and you both touched on it. It's a raising thing. I was raised that with sex it's fear. You're either going to go to jail. I thought it was a crime, and then I thought you'll get a disease and die. So it was like either prison time or death. So
Oh my God, what?
I remember I was outside in the front yard and I kissed this boy and the police rolled by, and the whole day my nerves was wrecked because I thought when I got off work I was going to jail.
So
But I thought I was going to jail.
I'm interested to know, was that told to you? Were you told that it was?
Yeah, my mother, that's how she kind of said it. So the whole cycle thing, you had a great experience. I ended up in the emergency room when my cycle was starting, but I didn't know what was happening to me. I remember health class and, them touching on it maybe on a day and a half. But yeah, I just knew my body was doing some things and they had never done it before. And we went to the emergency room, and I'm sure she knew what was going on, but she took me to the emergency room.
Who took you to the emergency room?
My mom, after getting calls from the office, because I was in the office just sick, not knowing what's happening, and went to the emergency room. And I remember her and the doctor kind of being off to the side, and they just basically said, get some bananas and go home, and some Tylenol.
Wait a minute, whoa. Okay, I'm really trying to understand.
I think the potassium for the cramps or whatever it was, but yeah.
Okay.
But so even in the hospital, your mom didn't
nothing
try to explain it to you that that's what it was.
Not at all. But she told my dad, and my dad came through as the hero. So he came home with a basket he created for me. He didn't explain it, but after he made my basket, my cycle basket, my mom kind of explained it. Like, yep, this is what, because it still hadn't started yet. I was just going through the motions of it. She was like, this is what's about to happen.
Oh, okay. That's why, because I was confused. I'm thinking you're sitting there bleeding and they're just like, oh, go eat some bananas. I'm like, what?
Like pre-menstrual, like my body was just, I was hot, cold, cramping, and I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah, and the bananas that's cramps. That's what we give players, athletes, when they start cramping in sport.
Yeah, the doctor basically prescribed me bananas and said, take your butt home.
Wow.
See, and my dad, when my cycle came on, my dad, I had already knew it was coming. So, and I was sitting there crying and stuff, and he was like, "What the hell is wrong? What are you crying for?" And I'm like, "I don't know." And he was like, "Does it hurt?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "What the hell are you crying for?" Because I already knew, you know what I'm saying? It wasn't a shock, but I think for me, I was just kind of like, okay, well, it's finally, like, you know what I'm saying? So I was like, it's finally,
Here.
this thing, like, you know what I'm saying? And then, and I think for fifth, I think once it came, I knew what that meant, right? I knew the responsibility that came with that, right? Wasn't even thinking about boys, wasn't even thinking about anything, but I was very conscious, right? That this meant womanhood, right? This meant how you can get pregnant. You see what I'm saying? Because I was taught. I guess it was just, it was that reality of that for me at 14 was like, I don't think I want this. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah.
Wow.
And I prefer not to do the touchy feely stuff around my mom. But I was also raised like that. I was raised in a 2-parent household, and my parents didn't do that a lot. They didn't do the PDA and, the affection and the hugs and the kisses. So, yeah, if I'm out with my mom, I don't even like if a guy try to talk to me. I feel like I feel like a little girl again, and I'm so embarrassed.
Oh.
Listen.
Yeah, so then that kind of makes sense. That makes sense because if you didn't see it with your parents, like I saw my parents, like I saw, like dad be like popping my mom on the butt in the kitchen, and you know what I'm saying? Like we saw them kiss and hug and affectionate, and we were affectionate. Like my parents hugged and kissed us, and you know what I'm saying? So it was like that's what we saw. But I can understand that if you didn't see that, to have to, once you get older and then you have your own relationship, to do it around them, something that they never even did around you, would
Right.
be a little weird. Yeah.
And it is something that I wish I would have saw and had solved it and then talked to. So I tried to break the curse with my son. He's only 10 and he probably knows way more than he needs to because I know what I wanted to know and I didn't find out. So I mean, his dad talked to him about everything. So he probably will have that safe space with me that I didn't have with my parents.
So that was what you talked about was a learning experience for me. When I met my wife, because of course I have an older son. I was a teenage parent, so her mom knew what we were doing. She spoke to us together and was like, "I know, you all are active, and I'm going to get some birth control because you all are too young for kids." And we were in high school. You know what I'm saying? So her mom knew, my parents knew what we were doing. And as an adult, I've dated people where, we would go home and with their parents and we would take trips with their parents and we would get a hotel room, their parents in a room, we're in a room, we slept together. We would hold hands and hug and things like that. But when I met my wife's family, her parents are ministers, and I realized they're just different. They don't do that at all. I'm like, I've never seen her sister and husband hug around the parents. I'm like, they've been married 30 years. And she was like, well, we don't do, PDA like that. So I didn't think anything was wrong. It was just a learning experience to me that, it's common in our area and in other places it's not. So like there's nothing, it's very common at home to go to a cookout. Your grandparents could be there. You're talking about feeling uncomfortable around your parents. Grandma could be right there and you sit on your boyfriend's lap, But
And
again,
you just touched on something with that too, with the sleeping in the same room. So my mom let me know that my grandmother didn't let her stay in the same room with my dad until they were married. And when I was dating and I would come home, to South Carolina
right.
and visit, my boyfriend would have to sleep in another room or get a hotel as well.
Mm.
Definitely passed.
See, my parents were like that too. Now mean, as much as they did definitely believe, like, it was fine if you was doing that, but you weren't just gonna do it in their house, right? Like,
Right.
so even after I had my daughter, when we would come home with, me and her dad would come home with her, me and her in my room and he on the couch. They was like, we know y'all that what y'all doing. Y'all just ain't
We
gonna
got
do
a
it here,
child
like,
together.
cause y'all ain't married, like,
Right, right.
correct. Yeah. So we know, we are very aware, but y'all ain't gonna do it in here. You know what I'm saying? So it was, it was that, it was that. So I'm mad. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, when I was married, then I could, we slept in, you know what I'm saying? But not unmarried. We did.
Mm, that's something. I think with my wife and I, we went on vacation with her parents, and yeah, I would stay somewhere else until we got married. Once we got married, you know, we stayed at the same location. Before I would sleep out on the sofa, which, I understand. I respect that. Everybody has their values, but I was thrown on the women saying they were grown in their 30s and like they've never spoke to their parents about that. That was surprising to me. And welcome. Hello, Miss Shata. Hello, hello. Feel free to have a seat. You can chime in if you'd like. We're discussing information sharing with parents. That's what we're talking about today.
And I think I do the same thing with my kids. Like, my son come home, my daughter, and I'm like, so we got enough condoms? Like, we go in the store and he'd be like, really, I'm dead serious. Like, we got enough? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we definitely, and I don't shy away from those topics with my kids. So, because it wasn't something that was taboo in my house.
So you share with them. Amos, what's going on? And welcome in. All of our callers and listeners. Welcome, welcome. And if you would like to chime in, just touch one of the call-in numbers and you can join us, join the panelists. And Mr. B Great, he's 43 years old. Tell us more about this. You said you're 43 and you're just now getting to the place where you feel comfortable talking to your dad about this stuff.
Yeah. Well, my dad, he lost his parents when he was really young. So, and he was raised by his siblings who are very, very mean. So I can kind of understand that. My mom kind of same boat. So as I, was getting up in age, never really felt comfortable talking about anything about sexual. So how I was like, it didn't really exist. So I get my information from my friends or from school.
Mm.
Or he might say something a little bit like, hey, you know about them birds and bees, right? I'm like, yeah, I know about birds and bees. All right, okay, good talk. You know? So funny. So,
I
but
didn't even know anything about the birds and bees. And I'm 48. I never heard the story, honestly.
Me
I
either.
mean,
I don't even know what that's. Wait,
I
what
don't
is
even know.
that exactly? Like, what do birds and
Yeah,
bees
what do
do? I
birds and
don't
bees
even
mean?
know. Like,
that's funny.
because I can't imagine a bird and a bee doing
Yeah,
nothing. So I don't
yeah,
really
it just
know
makes
what
sense
the
to
bird
me.
and the bee.
What is the birds and the bees? Who wants to share that story?
I can only guess. That's all I can do.
Yeah, people say birds and bees, and then I never heard that story. I don't know what it is. Like Nicole said, we learn about body parts. You know,
Well, see, and we learned about body parts, but we didn't learn the slang words for body parts. Like, we learned the real words for the body parts. And so, like, even to this day, the slang words for me are like, this is not what we going
right.
not what we gonna say. Like, you know what I'm saying? Because we didn't we
I
had
get slang words, and
nah, we didn't get slang words now.
yeah, and my daddy was like a pimp. All of his friends, his homeboys, they'll come by, boy, hey, I got your thing wet, boy. You know, saying things like that, and they'll give the slang with body parts. But I did learn, and Tavonna, I think you mentioned this once, the importance of teaching the kids the correct terms when it comes to body parts.
Yeah, because you don't want your child to go to school and hit themselves or something, and they tell the teacher, "Oh, I hit my bloop." Like, what? No. Like, I would be so embarrassed if a teacher called me and said that my son told her that he hit his D word. Like what? Oh my God. Like I would be absolutely
Well,
horrified. Like,
I had a safe schools training, and it talked about the importance of knowing the real terms, because some women, if you tell your little girl she has a cookie, well, what if someone touches her inappropriately? You know, you need to know that she was touched inappropriately, and not that, oh, someone touched my cookie, because a teacher doesn't know and they're thinking it's, like literal cookies and not her body part. So that was one of the things that they said, that why it's important to speak about that. Hello, Deborah.
Well, our word was pocketbook. Everybody knew what pocketbook was.
Hey, y'all.
A pocket. What is a pocketbook?
For
pocketbook?
women, yeah, pocketbook, yeah.
So
A
what does
woman
that
I've
has
mean?
heard
one.
that. I've heard that a lot. I've heard a lot of people call it a
A
pocketbook.
pocketbook? And what's the
Yeah,
men? What do they say for men?
it was nothing special.
Nothing special.
Nothing. No, not the word,
I call
yes.
it a nookie. I call it a nookie. So I don't
Oh,
know.
gosh.
My mom used to call it the enchiladas. Make sure you're watching enchiladas.
Oh, wow.
For real.
That's funny. So Deborah, Tavonna's going to get you caught up, Deborah.
So, Deborah, we're talking about your comfortability or lack thereof with having sexual conversations with your parents. What do you share? What you don't share? So, everything at this point. Like, everything. I swear to God, my daddy be like, yo, I really want to know that. Like, and then sometimes if I be like, all right, I'm about to go, you got your whole bag or whatever, he'll be,
Your
right.
dad say what?
He'll be like, oh, you got your whole bag? And I'm like, bro,
Oh my God.
like,
Yeah, me and my mom, I discuss everything with my mom. Like I told y'all before, we didn't used to have that relationship where, like when I was a teenager, she wouldn't dare touch those topics with me at all, which left me, dumb for a lot of things, you know what I'm saying? Or having to go outside of her to get the knowledge that I would have preferred from her. But now that, she's a lot more open with us, now that we're grown and she's a lot more open with us, like I'll tell her anything, you know what I'm saying? She'll tell me anything. Though I don't always really want to hear it from her end, I still give her that I still give her that listening ear so that she knows that this is a reciprocal thing that I want to continue to happen between us. Like just open, honest, transparent communication.
yeah, I don't think really nobody, he didn't want to know because my daddy be like, all right, I gotta go because I got
Right.
he coming over here. And I'm like, what? Nigga, like, don't nobody want to hear that. So, but again, like if I can say it, he got, you know what I'm saying? So it just is what it is. Or if I call and he'd be like, I'll call you back. I'd be like, ugh, why are you calling me back? Like,
Dad trying to
yeah.
fry some cheeks.
Listen, oh Lord, I be too fit to be tired with her.
No diddy.
I mean, hey, that's like
But
I
I
said,
mean,
Tom.
I think it's just, to me, I've always looked at parental child relationships as a spectrum, right? Like when you're a child, you are a child. Your parents, you look up to your parents help shape and mold, you know what I'm saying? Things like that. But then as you get into your young adulthood, that relationship should kind of shift. You know what I'm saying? Where there does become more of a friendship. You still need their guidance. You still need you know what I mean? But you're not a child anymore. So there has to be some sort of level of we're realizing that we're two adults. You know what I mean? And I think we on this at one of the other shows about understanding who your parents are as people, right? And not looking at them as just mom and dad. Like I realized that my mom and dad are who they are. Like they were who they became my mom and dad, right? They were full grown adults and had, you know what I'm saying? And so they have a life outside of being my parents, just like I have a life outside of being my kids' parents. When people see my kids, they're like, oh, hey, so, Ethan's mom or whatever. But
Right.
you definitely Tavonna, right? And you don't know that part, right? And so it's good that we as children know our parents' story, know what our parents have been through in their life, know what, you know what I'm saying, they've gone through, because then you can kind of understand
You and I.
because of
You and I.
their issues and their, yeah.
Yes.
I said you can understand why they parented you the way that they did once you understand their past and their life and what they've been through and how they grew up, right? Because most of our parents raised us like our grandparents raised
Raise them. Right. 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 Yeah. With
stories.
mama.
Sometimes it's hard to understand.
Right. Even with my son, like the other day, I haven't, excuse the French, I haven't went and gotten a wax lately because I'm in a new area and I'm very untrusting of stuff like that with just anybody. So I came out in the kitchen and grabbed like a handful of paper towels, like wrapped it around my hand and was headed back to my room. And he was like, Mom, why are you wasting paper towels like that? And I was like, I'm not. I'm getting ready to go near. And he was like, what is that? I was like, near the hair off my body. And he was like, so you take the hair off your body? And I was like, yes, son, I take the hair off my body in a lot of places. And, I just feel like conversations like that are not awkward. They shouldn't be
In a
awkward.
lot of places made me holler. I just want to let you know I was on mute, but in a lot of places I hollered.
Right. I mean, I try to be so transparent with my son. And I mean, he's my only. You get what I'm saying? I want him to understand me the same way I want him to know it is safe for him to let me understand him. So I don't know. I'm really open with him. It's me and him. I don't want to say against the world because he has a whole family. His dad is great. Dad is in the picture, whatever, though he's in another state. But it's like, I don't know. I am showing him what in my eyes, right? I am showing him how a woman should be, what a woman should be. And I feel like in that I should also be showing him transparency, because if a woman, when he gets a little older, is not willing and able to show that, then, that's like a downfall in a relationship. So I just try to, just instill in him and show him what I want him to see and look for in a woman when he gets to be that age.
And that's what you
Because
should
he
do.
only got about another year. He's already interested in girls. He's 13. So another year or two, who knows where he's going to be at with the little ladies. And, I mean, I'm afraid, but, you know,
And that's important. You should do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, kids all share a calendar. So they can see Zillion in the in the calendar, Tavonna Pap smear in the calendar, Tavonna mammogram, whatever I got going on is in the calendar, right? So it's not like they
right,
don't know. You know what I'm saying? That now, of course, my son be like, "You really need to know that that's where you had to go today. Like you couldn't just say I have an
right.
appointment." You know what I'm saying? However, but it's just, you know what I'm saying? Because at the end of the day, like you said, these are all very normal human like things, like, and they're going to have to experience them with their significant other and when they get older, like, you know what I'm saying, it's you shouldn't, I've never been like, my kids, my boys know about periods, and you know what I'm saying, when a woman gets her period and da 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 da, you know what I mean, because at the end of the day, they have to know all that.
Yeah. 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 They do. And it is very important for boys to know that and be able to understand what's going on.
You don't want your teenage son to have a girlfriend and slip up and she and he freaked the hell out because he never,
Doesn't
you
know
know what
what's
I'm
going
saying?
on.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That's no, he should know that.
Right. And not overreacting.
Not only should you know it, you need to know when it's coming, when she ovulating, the 28-day cycle, like figure it out with her. Look at her calendar, like, you know what I'm saying? Because all of these things play into your responsibility on the reproductive side, right? Not just
Right.
hers. These are the responsibility of the both of them.
Both of them. Yeah. Yeah. And communication as well and understanding, because as kids, we're all just kids. and you know, you have little boys that don't know any better, and they get upset because the girl doesn't want to play today, and he doesn't understand. Like Tamika said, she's having premenstrual pains.
Yeah, these girls is at 9 and 10 and they're in elementary school. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I was a freshman in high school, so I couldn't have imagined in the fourth or fifth grade
I was
having
the
to say,
same.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Like, you know what I'm saying? That is,
I remember some girls in elementary school where that happened, and they didn't know what was going on, and you know they were bleeding. Didn't know. The teachers tried to be discreet as possible and whispered to others and try to get some, get some nurse and get some changing clothes and things like that. So yeah, I think it is important for young men to be educated on that as well. But so I guess it's accepted that it's just different among cultures and regions, because I was going to ask what age do we think would be appropriate to have those courageous conversations with parents, but some people in their 40s and almost 50 and feel like they still cannot. So,
yeah, I think you have to start those again early. If you don't start them early, then you're going to have 30 and 40-year-olds who can't talk to their parents. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah,
mm. So
you
Deborah,
have to have that early.
have you always been able to speak to your parents that way, Deborah?
No, no, not my mom. Like, no, not my dad wasn't always in the picture. So I didn't really, get to talk to him about much of anything. That's more or less where, my brothers and my cousins would come in. But like my brothers, they never really wanted to have that conversation with me. But my cousin, the same one who stopped me from running up on dude and his baby mama at the McDonald's that day, like he has always been so open and honest with us. And so he would have those conversations with us, different conversations. And I always have my aunts. Like my aunts were always really good because they weren't as, you know, what's the word I want to use? Like, I don't want to say stuck up as my mom, but back in the day, like I just feel she was so like stuck up and just, I don't know. I don't know. You couldn't get through to her back then. Like no one could. Like everyone thought she was the meanest person on earth. And like, I don't know.
So
So it wasn't until after her divorce, her last divorce, that she really, I guess, changed her perspective on life and what she wanted it to look like and how she wanted to show up and interact with us as her children, as well as the other people around her. So it's just, that's kind of what it was. And so then she opened up. She just started being more talkative, more transparent. I found out she used to be in the gang and like it was
your
things
mom?
that I never, yes, yes. My mom was ruthless, which I never would have thought because she was always so like uppity acting. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't make sense like when she started to be transparent about these things, it never made sense to me for how she acted like when we were growing up because I'm like, that's not like I understand changing, but you just kind of it was almost like after her mom died, everything that she was doing prior to that, she just kind of disassociated herself from the life, the family, like all of it. Like I don't even know my grandmothers on my mom's side of the family. Never met them. You know what I'm saying? Hardly ever outside of my grandfather or, that was like it. Cause they didn't like once my grandmother died, none of them like checked on them, kept in contact, did anything. So like all five of them just like cut that side of the family out and we just don't know them.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really weird. I don't know.
Well, that's understood. That's understood. And sometimes events happen that bring you closer to, a parent or a family member where you feel like you're able to speak to them about certain things.
Yeah, definitely. But I mean, it's a learning curve. I feel like it's still things I find out about her, you know, says, but as moments, come about and things come up that may like trigger one of us, from by her. And then we, want to have a conversation. As we sit down and have those conversations, she may reveal another piece of information that we just never knew, that gives us a different level of insight into, okay, now that explains why she's like that then. So it's
Hmm.
just, I don't know.
Hmm.
It's really interesting to me how that continues to evolve with us.
This is interesting to me. Of course, learning experience. I hope others learn as well, like I did. You know how these things that we think are common can be so different in the end.
Yeah,
And there's no
very
right
much.
or wrong, in my opinion. I don't think there's a right or wrong when it comes to this.
I don't either. I think everybody is going to do things as they, choose to do them, as they wish to do them. And like me and my sister are really more or less on the same exact page when it comes to raising our kids. And I think it's because my mom was different with us than she was with our brothers. She was so dismissive of us, and she almost like she didn't like us because we were girls. And so I don't,
What?
it's y'all, when I tell y'all, if y'all knew, if we had time to really break down the my life, it's a whole story. But me and my sister, we make sure to not deal with our kids in that manner in any way, shape, form, or fashion. Like, if you got something to say, speak your mind, as long as you stay respectful about it. But speak your mind. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever feel like you have to shut up or you can't say how you feel because you're talking to an adult. Like, you should still be able to say how you feel in a respectful manner, and they should still be able to receive that and answer accordingly. You know what I'm saying? To what you guys' dialogue is.
Mm.
So, those are just, things that we try to do that we were not given. A lot of times we didn't have a voice. Stay in the child's place. You know what I'm saying? Don't you see grown folks talking? Don't speak unless spoken to. Like, those are all things to just silence you as a
Right,
child.
right, right.
And you never really and then you grow up and you don't speak up for yourself. And that was me for a lot of years. I didn't speak up for myself. I just wanted to people please because I didn't want a problem. And then when I finally decided I'm getting out of this, now I'm the meanest person in the world. Now I don't know what happened to Deborah, but now she's so mean. Now she's so, you know what I'm saying? But I'm really not. I'm just standing up for myself now. And you're not used to that part of me because it's not what you got to know. You got to know naive, timid Deborah who never wanted a problem. Now you getting, you know, Deborah who is coming with all the smoke if you want it. And it's a change for people who don't know you like that.
How do you feel
So
about discussing things with your son?
I
How
mean, I
old is
don't,
he?
he's 13, and there's certain things I ask him to talk to his dad about, but for the most part, if it's something that I can, that I feel comfortable at least giving him some insight on, then I will. But I am very comfortable talking about just about anything. It's I don't think there's anything I wouldn't discuss with him when the time is right.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't always think right now the time is not right for certain things to me because he's only 13. But, as he gets a little older, as he starts to get out there in the world a little bit more and dibble and dabble in different things, you know, those conversations will be had more or less before he gets out there. When he's coming up to those ages where, he needs to have those conversations, then I definitely do have those. Like sex conversations, we have that now. We have to talk about that now because, you know, he sent a dick pic at 10. It, it, that was traumatic for me,
How did you
but
find
it
out?
was because the girl's grandmother called my phone. And I had just, like, I told Carter to bring me his phone because I wanted to check it. And he hesitated on bringing me the phone. But the funny thing is, in his hesitation, the little girl's grandmother called me. But she called me in an accusatory manner. And then I like went to Carter, give me that telephone. And then I started going through the telephone as I'm on the phone with the grandmother, only to find out that her granddaughter was actually the aggressor in the situation, like going back through there. But the granddaughter erased all of the messages on her end. So the
Mm.
grandmother didn't see anything other than the picture.
Oh, okay.
And right. So on my end, I then let the grandmother know, well, I have their whole thread and I'm looking at pictures of your granddaughter in her underwear. I'm looking at a video of her dancing in her underwear and tank top. I'm not going to send it to you because I don't think that's appropriate.
Yeah,
But
that's child pornography for you to forward it.
yeah, I said, but, and I read off to her how the text messages read. And it was literally like, the little girl was like, well, show me your D. And Carter was like, no. And she was like, why not? You scared? Like, what is it, little? Like, you get what I'm saying? Like, she was
Oh
straight
wow.
agonizing and like pushing him
Provoking you,
to
right,
do this.
right.
And I think he went to his cousin who's a little older than him and probably asked and got the worst advice. And he did it. And it caused, like, I wound up having to go up to his school to talk to, the counselors and to ask them to reach out to this little girl's grandmother and let them know that I don't want him and her corresponding during school. I don't want, you know what I'm saying? Because clearly she was way more like sexually free than her grandmother was aware of at
Mm.
10. And she was the same age at 10. So she's sexually aggressive is the word I meant to say. She was way more sexually aggressive at 10 than her grandmother was aware of. And I know that's not Carter. Like, I know that's not something Carter is like would do. So it was almost like, why would you do? He was like, I don't know. I just, once I asked my cousin, he said to do it. And so I did it. And I'm like, so you're going to be a dummy and just do what everybody tells you to do? When you ask advice, you don't think like, okay, that doesn't make sense. This could possibly get me in trouble. My mom will probably want to, castrate me if I do this, which I really did. I wanted to, but I went a little bit far, and then I had to go back and have a conversation because I told him, I was like, if you ever disrespect yourself like that again, I will cut that shit off. Excuse my French. I really did. And then afterwards, I had to go back and let him know, like, I understand you made a mistake. I understand you were like naive to the situation, but this is not a mistake that you can make
Did it
for,
get to the school officials?
such and such and such and such reason, huh?
Did that incident get to the school officials?
It didn't. It didn't. It didn't. Outside of the counselor, who I brought it to because I needed it to be made aware that I didn't want him and this little girl in cahoots. I didn't want them, around each other. And past that, it didn't go anywhere. The counselor, she understood. The grandmother understood. You get what I'm saying? I don't even know if the grandmother really reached out because she never showed up at the school like I asked of her to do so that we could all be there together, which also let me know that you called me, but what did you really call me for? Because clearly this is not your priority. Like checking her and making sure that the importance of this is instilled in her. That wasn't your priority. So, I don't know where her parents were. I just remember the grandmother telling me like, her parents are not around right now. And that was all she said. So I know there's something else that, you know what I'm saying? Like there's other things that have transpired with this little girl, family wise that may have her like that may have her being, that way because maybe she doesn't have the proper guidance or supervision that she should have at that age. So I don't know. It was a crazy situation, but I haven't had any problems with him since then, you know, and I don't know. It's I don't know. It's a road that I feel like is tricky for me to navigate. I really want him to just stay at the age he is, but I know that's not going to happen. I just try to make sure that he's smart in his decisions and the things that he does and says and thinks about, that he uses his own mind.
And you understand that he is a child.
And I do. And
Okay.
that he is very impressionable regardless. And he's going to make mistakes. He's going to do things. He's going to make mistakes, And that's what I had to go back and explain to him after the incident. Like, I'm not really going to cut your thing off. I'm not, I was really pissed in the moment, but, you know, like, that's not a way that you can disrespect yourself. There's a lot of ways in life that we will disrespect ourselves, but never let that be one of them. You know what I'm saying? If you're not face to face with her, don't do that. Don't send it. I don't care how many times she asks. I don't care what she looked like. Don't ever send a woman one of those pictures.
But you could have traumatized him.
I could have. 100%. But that's why I also knew I had to hurry up and come back and have that conversation. That, like, me correcting that wasn't like I waited days. No, that was like maybe an hour or so after, you know, the initial situation happened and I calmed down. I went back and sat down with him and had this conversation. It was probably like 2 hours after. I didn't let days go by. I didn't let it sit and simmer with him. And I apologized to him. And you know what I'm saying? I just let him know that it took me by surprise and it was out of frustration and also fear of what could have happened to him. Why I even reacted in that manner. So that was a learning curve for me as a parent. It really was. And the crazy part was in doing and interacting with him like that, I realized that was exactly how my mom used to interact with us if she thought we were doing something we weren't supposed to do. Like, it would be the threats and I think that's more or less why I checked myself so quickly, because I was able to see that and be like, yeah, no, nope, can't do that. So, oh, hey, Nicole, I'm sorry. I did see you say hey to me.
I have a question for you. Well, looking back, do you wish you had spoken to your parents more openly about sex? And
I
why?
wish they would have spoken to me more openly about sex.
Hmm.
I wish they would have been more open because, you know, I've always been sexually open. I've never been like really, I mean, once I got to, figure out that what happened to me as a child, didn't need to determine how I moved sexually. Like, I didn't have to look at my sexuality as like something I needed to protect at all costs. Like, I could be sexually open and honest with myself and with, you know, the people around me, and it be okay and it not mean that I was going to get taken advantage of because of it. Once I was able to kind of put two and two together in my head with that, then I was able to be very much more open sexually with who I was, and I just wish that my mom, would have talked to me more, would have been more open, like how my aunts were, because it was like, yeah, I was able to get that information from them, but I wanted it from you,
Hmm.
you know? And I never got that until we got older, like we've grown and it's like now you give us that, but it would have been so much more helpful had you given us that as teenagers, as young adults, We were just always told, don't come home with a baby or you can't come home.
What?
Yeah. That was don't come home with a baby or you cannot come home.
Oh, wow.
And that's part of the reason why I was like, I don't know. I don't think it was the reason why I never wanted kids, but it's definitely part of the reason why I didn't have Carter till I was almost 30. Because I was just like, I don't know when I might ever need to go back home. So let me just make sure I'm not out here willy-nilly getting myself in trouble and then I can't never return back home.
I'm wondering, Like, what are the differences among, like, was it taboo in certain households? Was that because of religion? Was it because of, I mean, what factors do you all think played a major role in that?
You mean with my mom?
Yeah, like why is it so different among different families?
I think it's just the way that you get raised. Y- I don't know. They're from a different time than we are. They're from a time where you didn't discuss that type of stuff, really,
But see, it's
growing
different
up.
because
It
we
wasn't
did.
ladylike.
We did, and my dad's 80 years old.
Right. But see, that's the thing. I don't get it because but I mean, you're talking about my mom. Like I said, my dad, he was too in the streets to teach me anything, to tell me anything really too much.
I
He
want to take a
stopped
second.
being that.
I want to just take a second and greet our guests that entered the studio because our listeners cannot see. But hello, Felicia. Please take a seat, ma'am. Fox the Cipher. Hello and welcome. Liz, Coach Kyle. We have two other guests. They have not updated or edited their names. Welcome. And if you would like to chime in or be a panelist, guest host, just touch one of the calling numbers and we can allow you to have a seat. And today we're just talking about, we have a few questions, you know, about conversation with parents. Those are the things we want to talk about. And if you have something that you would like to share or some questions for someone else, please, man, so you can look at the questions that I put into the chat area.
Yeah.
But,
So yeah, like my dad, he wasn't there. He wasn't present. My dad stopped coming around at like 6 or 7. There was not, those conversations hadn't begun to start happening yet. And then, he just was gone. Well, not gone, but like in and out. And when he was around, he was never sober. So
and do you think that played a role?
in my upbringing,
Yes.
yeah, definitely. Because I had abandonment issues that I had to work on. I remember telling you guys a story of like wanting to like chase. You get what I'm saying? Like when a man is not showing the consistency, it would almost make me want to chase, you know, instead of just really being able to say, oh, well, you're not consistent. You're not putting any effort here. Then clearly you don't want to be here, and being able to, you know what I'm saying? Like walk away in a healthy manner without, you know, trying to figure out, what's happening here. Why is he not putting in the effort here? Why is he not calling me back? Why is he not texting me back? Like those were all things like I had to, and confidence was never really an issue for me. So I knew it was something different. Like I was always confident. I never like got with anyone and thought, oh, he's dealing with this girl and this girl and this girl. Like another person, another woman was never like where my mind went. It always like, I guess in a way it was a confidence issue because it always went to like, what am I doing wrong? Like, what is it about me that is not making him be consistent? You know what I'm saying? And it just, I mean, it came to a point where I just had to realize like, I'm great. I'm awesome. You know what I'm saying? I had to know that if someone doesn't want to be there, they're not going to be there, and you got to be okay with that. If someone's not showing up correctly, then you got to let that person go and let them go with love, like not with anger, not with malice, not with hate, but let them go. I had to learn that what God brings, he's not going to bring shrouded in confusion and lack of clarity and like lies and deceit. Like he's not. So if that's what I'm encountering, then clearly this is not something for me. So but all of that came with just like really doing the inner work to, figure out what was best for me, what I desired, how I seen myself, what I thought about myself, how I looked at myself, how I viewed myself. And I feel like I'm still a work in progress, even at this point,
I want you to look at the questions that I posted. What do you feel about those? God hates divorce. So Coach Kyle. Hey, Latoya, and welcome. Please share. And I apologize for this impromptu. We are here on Fridays, every Friday at 5:30. This is our Drive at 5 podcast. But due to the storm, I was without power on Friday. We had some trees down and everything, so we decided to come back today and hopefully, well, I don't know when the power will be restored, to be honest.
You still don't have power?
No, we won't. There's no ETA on when the power will be restored. So I actually came. I'm in Charleston now. I came to Charleston and hung out. Got to see my dad and family, and just
That I knew something was up because I'm like, I think it was like Saturday. I think I might have texted you. I'm like, what happened? You know what? I missed last week because I was traveling. I traveled to Atlanta for my younger brother's surprise birthday party. So I was traveling in the midst of Fridays, so last Friday. So I'm like, I know I missed that show. And then when this Friday came, I'm
yeah, we
looking
didn't
for
have
and
any
my power
power.
was out too. My
Yeah,
power was out too, though. I lost power on Thursday. I didn't get it back until like Friday evening. But when I did get it back, like I'm looking for the podcast, like I need to talk to some people about some stuff. Like,
Nicole called me as well, and she was like, "Cole, I can't get on. I can't get on." And we didn't have any power, and I had to, check on my boys and get some things together. So I should have made an announcement, but we are here. We have other callers that chimed in. Welcome again, everyone. And anyone that wants to, we would love to hear what you all have to say about today's topic, right? So just touch the call in number, any one of the numbers, and you can become a panelist. And we were talking about communicating with parents. And what sparked today's episode was I was conversing with someone and I shared an experience that someone else told me about their mother. It was a young lady, she was in her 30s, and she said her mom thinks that she's a virgin. And I'm like, are you serious? And she said she had been with, 10 partners at that time. And I'm like, so you never talked about sex with your mom at all, about anything? Like, no. And I didn't know that was a thing because of how transparent my friends and I are when it comes to, sex with our parents. And public displays of affection is pretty much accepted without marriage. Myself included, I was a teenage parent, and a lot of my friends and classmates, we had children like fresh out of school, some in school. So, we had kids before marriage. So obviously we had sex before marriage. And not that it was promoted, but it was acknowledged and accepted. So I would like to know what you all have to say about the questions that were posted. Were sex and relationships openly discussed in your household, or was it more of a taboo subject? Also, what are the most important things you think should be communicated between parents and children about sex? How can both sides feel more comfortable? And finally, looking back, do you wish you had spoken to your parents more openly about sex? Why or why not? I want to hear what you all have to say. And Nicole, we haven't heard from you in a while. If you're still here with us, Miss Shanta, Miss Jackson.
Hello, hello, hello. I'm here.
I was about to say, Nicole better be here.
How are you, Deborah?
I am, I am good. I am good. Life is better. Life is better.
That's great.
So, Nicole, what are the most important things you think should be communicated between parents and children about sex? And how can both sides feel more comfortable?
Me personally, I've raised 3 kids. I never sugarcoated like birds and bees. I hate that when I hear that. Talking about the birds and bees. No, we were talking about sex. We were talking about pussy and dick, excuse me. So,
Right. Ain't no
in
birds
addition
and bees.
to my girls, you're having sex, that condoms is just not to stop babies, but it's to help prevent the spread of germs. Like my son, you have sex unprotected, you make a baby, you're going to be responsible. You don't want that. Talk about the feeling. I think my son was maybe 12. We was living in Charlotte and he woke up and he was all sticky. And I'm like, oh my goodness. I
We're
said,
praying
this
for
is
you.
happening. And he's on the other line listening to me talk as we speak now. He probably going, Go say, Mom, what you want to say, Albert?
Nicole, I'm dying over here.
That's a true statement. Yeah, he woke up. His bed was all sticky. I'm saying, oh my God. I said, boy, get in that shower. And I'm sitting down and I'm trying to, this is really happening.
So
They're
wait,
like,
I have a
girl.
question. How did you navigate that? Because Carter just like the other day, I went to go wash a load of clothes and I noticed that his blanket was
No sticky.
on the floor by the washing machine. And I'm like, why is your blanket out here? He was like, cause it stank. It was just all nasty and sticky and stuff. I was like, but why? And he was like, he didn't like, it was almost like he didn't want it to. I was like, you know what? Never mind. I probably know why already. So let me just wash the blanket, Carter. And he just laughed and walked away. But like,
Yeah,
how do you navigate that?
well, I mean, it was just us. And so we really had a good communication. We were on a good communication basis, me and my kids. And when Shaquille told, I mean, he is 30 now and he tells me everything. I mean, it's no secrets. I remember one night he ran out of girl house with his wee. He sent me a picture from Charlotte with his wee wee. He had hives. The girl had babe bells. He's like, Mama, where I'm going, where I'm going. I said, boy, you better catch the on to the dump. He's in his 20s. But I never really had a problem talking to him, even though he was a boy, because we had that relationship. And so when he told me he was sticky, I said, what happened? And I think I actually told him, I said, oh my gosh, you got your first nut. He said, Mama. And he listening. Say something, Shaquille.
Very true. Everything she's saying is true.
Yeah, so, I mean, we talk about everything. We really talk about everything. And I just think you have to be more open because with these younger kids now, between social media, the
YouTube
TV and
and
stuff
things.
like that,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
needs to be talked about even more sooner now because when I started my cycle at 10 years old and I remember calling my mom. I guess she wasn't expecting me that early to have a cycle. And I called and I told her somebody had put ketchup in my underwear. Carolina Correctional. I'm serious. And we lived like not knowing what's going on. We lived a half a mile away from the school and it took her like an hour and a half because she has a bad nerve, which I do too. When you get bad news, she had to go to the restroom. She says like she couldn't find her keys or anything. But I wasn't told and I refused when I started having kids that I was going to shelter them out because I was a sheltered only child for a long time.
Right. So you chose to share that information.
Yeah, I wanted to share it with my kids.
Chat with Shaq.
Right.
I
And everything with us was just a scare tactic.
Go ahead and talk to Shaq. I want to talk to Hook and Coach Kyle. I posted the questions that we have today. We're just talking about sharing information with your parents. And what was shocking is we had some adults on earlier, women that are in their 40s that still do not talk about sex around their parents. They do not engage in public displays of affection or hugging, cuddling. It's like they still feel like a little child when they're with their parents. So I want to hear from Coach Kyle and Hook about the questions posted. Were sex and relationships openly discussed in your household, or was it more of a taboo subject? What are the most important things you think should be communicated between parents and children about sex, and how can both sides feel more comfortable? And finally, looking back, do you wish you had spoken to your parents more openly about sex? Why or why not? What do you guys have to say?
Hook, do you want to go?
Yeah, I guess I'll start.
Go for it.
I know that with me, sex was not openly discussed at my home growing up. And I think that is one of the biggest hindrances that not having an active father in the house for a little boy. I think that's a major hindrance because I didn't feel comfortable talking to my mom about anything sex related. And she didn't provide me with I guess, quote unquote, safe space to do so. Like whenever sex came up on the TV, like she'd tell me to go in the other room and cover my eyes, but we never actually talked about it. Everything I learned from sex, learned about sex, which is actually the worst thing to do is from my homeboys who are already having sex, or my older cousins, or porn, or, all the wrong things. You know what I'm saying? Like, and as far as my kids, man, because I have two daughters, 14 and 15, and we talk. When they got of age, me and my wife sat them down and we asked them if they've ever had sex, if they knew what sex was. We asked them about different things, and they knew a hell of a lot. Excuse me, they knew a heck of a lot more than I thought they would. So which was it was kind of appalling because I have little girls, but I totally get it because they're exposed to more things now. But we talk all the time when they have like little boyfriends or whatnot. We talk about these things, and I don't like I don't like talking about sex with them, but I know it's necessary. I know I'd probably be a little different if I had a little boy. I'd probably be more open, but with them, we did open that door. So I feel that they're extremely comfortable telling us for anything sex related. And as far as the last question about, do I wish that I'd had the conversation with my mom? Yeah, definitely. There are a lot of things. Communication was not a big thing in our household. So I'm not sure how I became as effective a communicator as I am, because, my mom didn't talk about anything. So I do wish that she would have opened that door to at least, let's have a conversation about it. You know what I mean? Because even when she found out I was having sex, I mean, she ain't never asked me like, you know, did you use protection, or, you know what I mean? Like, she didn't talk about stuff like that, which I thought that she should have. But then again, I don't know why she didn't, but those are my thoughts.
Mm. And I want to know, if we're looking back, right? You wish you had spoken, you were able to speak to her more, right?
Hmm.
What are the most important things you think should be communicated between parents and children?
Between parents and, oh man, it's so many things, but besides sex, obviously is a big one. Cause I mean, so many things can go wrong when you engage in sex and don't know what you're doing. You can become a parent early. You can contract the STD. You may even contract something that you can never get rid of. So I think that sex definitely, education or future plans rather, and goals. What do I want to be? How can we get there? And for me also, how to properly treat women. With her being a woman, I think that like when I first started dating, I wasn't worrying about opening doors or catering to a woman, or having a long-term relationship. I was really in it for one thing. And then as I got older, I began to regret some of the early decisions I made. And then I realized that, what I'm doing is not the right way to go about doing things. So those would probably be my top three.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I'm just getting feedback from everyone. We have other callers that called in. Welcome everyone that's here. And just getting everyone caught up in what we're sharing. We're just talking about communicating with parents. Tori is here. And we have a few other listeners. And I understand there's some topics everyone probably won't want to discuss, you know. But if you do, please feel free. Please chime in. We have a lot of other listeners here, and we would like for you to join us. And like I stated earlier, for me, my parents divorced when I was about 3. But my mom, she discussed sex with my sister was the oldest, and she discussed it as far as like, fear tactic with her. She, warned her about pregnancies and things like that and wanting to get back to these boys and blah, blah, blah. And of course, obviously it didn't work. My sister had my nephew when she was a senior in high school. But with my dad, man, it's just crazy the way, we grew up with him and the transparency that he had when it came to, sex and women. So I was in elementary school and he knew we used to watch his sex tapes, He would talk about, what you're doing. My dad had a lot of friends, I called them all my uncles, OGs. They would come around, boy, you getting that thing wet? Boy, you got such and such. I had older cousins and older homeboys. Like you said, Hook, those were the worst teachers because, they were having sex. And I think because we interacted on a daily basis, and I was kind of mature for my age. I think I was definitely kind of tall for my age, so I was close to the same size as these guys, and they were in middle school when I was in elementary. And I remember, like, my sister would have these house parties, and they would find a girl for me to slow dance with, and telling me how to tongue kiss, and doing these things in elementary school. So it was definitely not taboo. Like, we literally talked about it. And I was very transparent with my dad. I've always shared things with him from my teenage years through adulthood. So it was a learning experience for me when I found out that adults are actually, like, afraid, like their parents have not created a space for them to discuss sex at all. So I wanted to know from the people that experienced that, what was that suppression like? Like, you just knew, I cannot talk to my parents about this. I cannot mention that. Hey, when we go around my parents, no hugging, no kissing, no feeling. And that was different to me when I learned that, because if you're with someone, you're sexually active, you're cuddling, you're holding hands at movies, you're kissing in the car and doing whatever. And then when you go around their parents, what do you do? You know,
All right, I'm ready.
yeah,
Sorry, I was busy.
go ahead, have
Uh,
it.
I Mine was more educational. Like my parents, I saw my
No
dad.
background noise. You got some background noise going on.
Oh yeah, sorry. Wait a minute. I'm inside of a shop. That's why. Wait a minute. I'm in a Pizza Hut. That's why.
Okay.
But a good Pizza Hut, like one of the most popular ones. So yeah. No, I witnessed like straight educational type of, you know, sex talks and all that. Plus, I saw my dad. I saw my dad like in the kitchen with my mom, always like hugging my mom and kissing her, walking by. You know, the old King of the Hill slap on the ass.
Right, right.
I saw all that, and I was like, damn, they really love each other. And I told myself, I want to have a happy marriage like that, and a happy love like that. So for me, seeing that, you know, of course, I had the 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 daddy talk, you know, and yeah, it was at a young age. I was eight or 10. My dad showed me the AC/DC song, you know, Big Balls, and that shit made me laugh because I thought it was just, you know, I didn't understand what it was, kind of,
Right.
but I did listen to it, and it wasn't really just about balls. It was also about partying and have a good time. So I understand, you know, both sides. Besides that, it was kind of educational because it kind of taught me where I can be later on in the future
Right.
or where I need to be, like relax with the whole family. You know what I mean? We could have a ball. You get it? Let's have a ball.
Right. Right. Right.
That's kind of what I understood also from it. So I was like, that'd be awesome. You know, I get it. When I was growing up, when I got with my wife, when she was just my girlfriend, it was with her parents where, because I'm half white, half Mexican. She's full on Mexican. Her family were like, okay, no kissing, no hugging around the family, right?
Mm.
So they were the ones that, you know, okay, this is where the boundaries are, right? But you know, I'm ADHD and I was that kid that, you know, pushed boundaries. The mom told me, yeah, the mom and dad, they were like, hey, you're not allowed to kiss or hug, you know, our daughter in front of us. And I was like, I'll kiss you too, Dad. You want me to kiss you? Get over here. Come here, Mom. Come here, Dad. And they're like, oh my God, Kyle, you're crazy. Get away from us. Go kiss our daughter.
Right. Right.
And I was like, hey, you know, I threw that out. And by doing so, you know, that's where I kind of like showed them that type of boundary. Like they understood what I meant. And
Right.
it's kind of biblical. It's actually kind of biblical. Men are emotionally physical. Women are, and it's not to be basher, you know, it's not to bash. It's to like learn, right? So, and women, you know, we gotta listen to women, and We love to listen to our women, right, guys? Of course we do.
Right. Everything that they
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, it's discipline, So I learned that. And that's what that's why they let me do not what I wanted, but it was a need for love, I love my wife. I love her. I'm going to show it by hugging her and kissing her.
So they accepted, they understood, and they.
Yeah. Yep. They understood it. And they're like, oh my God. Cause cause my wife had many boyfriends, of course, before me. Right? Right? Like, come on. I couldn't have been the
How
only
old were
boyfriend.
you? How old were you when you all got together?
I was, 20.
Okay.
Yeah. This was like after high school.
Okay.
High school's over. And like, I was more mature, of course. I knew what I wanted. I was out of high school. I was done with all the kid games.
So you
Yeah.
knew, okay, this is the one you're looking for, a serious relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. And I learned also like with the talks with my dad,
Yeah.
and it's not to bash on women, once again, not to bash on women. He was like,
Okay.
Kyle, you're going to want a woman that has like the natural function to nurture. So it's like she loves cooking, she loves cleaning, and she loves taking care of children, but you got to do your part too. So like, I was like, yeah, okay, copy that.
So you say your parents, which parent was white and which was Latino?
My dad was the Latino and my mom was the white
Okay.
one.
So how was that? Was there any differences in communicating with them when it came to sex?
When communicating with the sex, no, they knew what I was doing because they were like, Kyle, you better be using a condom. Like
Okay,
when
so
I had a
both
new
parents,
girlfriend, like when I had a
right?
girlfriend, they're like, use a condom. That's all I have to tell you. Don't be a dumbass. I was like,
Okay,
copy. I was
so
like,
they were
copy
on
that.
the same page when it came to talking about things like that.
Yeah, they're like, don't be a dumbass. And if they told me straight up, they're like, if you have any children underneath our home, you're
Okay.
going straight to work and you're going to pay all the bills and pay for those diapers. I was like, all right. And they're like, wait, what did you say? I was like, yeah, you heard me. I said, okay, I'll do it all. And they're like, damn, he's ready.
But do you have kids now?
Yes, I have a son and I already moved out. Like when
Was
I
it
was
as
like,
easy as you thought it was going to be?
no, like
Okay.
in the beginning, I thought it was. Of course, it was easy as hell because it was funny. My wife told me this question too, and I was like, it was easy when he couldn't get away from me. He was a baby. I
Right.
loved cradling my son, and I loved reading books to him, and I did. I read books to my son to put him to bed, and I rocked him, and I massaged him. I did all that with him too. I
Right.
interacted, and my wife didn't know I was gonna do that. And I was like, what? You thought I was gonna be an asshole? I was like, I'll be an asshole later on. She's
So
like,
she really appreciated that part. She appreciated it.
yeah, yeah. Cause when there was a time that she was tired and I knew I had to step up. I had to step up and like, I was like, hey honey, the baby's crying. And she was like, she wouldn't wake up. I was like, oh fuck, you're KO'd. You're done. You're really tired. I was like, okay, stay in bed. And I woke up and my son was like crying and I changed his diaper and it was funny, but scary at the same time because I put him in my arm and sat down on the couch and I watched TV with him. Like it was like 1:30 in the morning. That's when he woke up and I had to wake up. Take care of my son. So, I remember falling asleep and then I woke up because I was scared that he fallen off. When you take those micro naps and you thought you were sleeping for like hours, but it was only for like 5 seconds.
Right.
I was like, oh shit, no, my son. And nope, he like passed out right away. And I was like, oh, thank God. So when he passed out, took him to bed. Like I did the full 10 yards and I was tired.
Yeah, I think guys definitely have to be put in those shoes, in those positions so that they understand. I feel like that's where women a lot of times will drop the ball when it comes to allowing the father to really be an active, be active in that role and really take on a lot of those responsibilities. Not that you have to do it all day, every day the way I do, but to know what it's like so that when I say, babe, I'm exhausted, could you handle this for the night? Right? Like, you can step in and say, of course, I got it. You know what I'm saying? Let me do this. Let me take this off your plate for the night. Let me be the one to get up in the middle of the night, because it's exhausting when it's always just one person doing it, but it's a 2-parent household.
Fully agree. No, I fully agree. And that's what I actually wanted to do. I even told my wife that. I was like, I want to grow at least a little bit of gray hairs. She was like, shut the fuck up. I was like, no, I'm not lying. Like, I love the struggle. It's like weird. It's like I said, like challenges were set, right? When you stepped up to the plate to become a parent. As a father, we love competition. We love competition. And that's where my mindset was. Zeke, come here. Come help me out, buddy. Yes. And and how should I say it? And you have every right to to be scared when the man is when he tries to step up. But you know what? You gotta kind of let them. You kind of gotta let them learn. Like you said, you gotta let them learn to understand.
Yeah, but that was perfect.
Yeah, no one's
Right.
perfect. Yeah,
And
but
you can't make him feel like everything he's doing is wrong either. You
yeah,
have to really let him go through his own learning curve.
yeah,
You
but
know, leave him alone with the baby for 2 hours.
yeah,
Start out with 2 hours. Leave him alone. Come
yeah,
back after those 2 hours and see if the house is in shambles. See if see if the baby's still alive. Make sure everything, if the baby's still
yeah.
alive, we passed the test. That's good enough for me, because our baby is still alive after 2 hours.
And then that's exactly, and that's what you're focused on. But here's the crazy part. I know that there's a lot of statistics. Even when I saw it, within my family, when they had kids, they would actually all run to me and they go, all the men, they were like, dude, how do you do this? And I was like, there's no instructions to babies, dog. You're just going to have to figure this shit out, dog. Like, every baby's different, dog. Like, not all of them are the same. I was like, okay. I was just like, to step up to the plate, let's do a safety rule. And they're like, what's that? I was like, all right, do you put your baby in harm's way? They're like, hell no. And I was like, cool, you passed the test. You can have a baby now. Don't be a dumbass. Don't put your baby in danger then. If you're
Right.
gonna,
And then I think for men, it would always also be a good idea, whereas you have the knowledge and they're coming to you for the knowledge, make sure y'all have a text thread or something like that. Like, if you need help, reach out. You know what I'm saying? We could come together as men and help each other out to
yeah,
figure it out, to understand it. You get what I'm saying? Make it a bonding moment between you and your siblings or cousins or whoever it is that's coming to
yeah,
you for help.
yeah,
You
no,
know,
yeah. My cousin does that a lot now because his ex-wife, he has an ex-wife now. Because his ex-wife is crazy. She's loony, but his children, his children had to suffer the consequences because they got to see all the burden, what my cousin had to, dude, my cousin did everything. He changed my second cousin's diapers. He fed them. He had to do everything in the household, and I felt bad for him. And he's not really a social person anymore. And when I go visit him with my son, I kind of see the destruction that was done to him. And my cousin, he's from the military. So he kind of likes to bring down the hammer a lot because he's from the military. And there's a time that he does need help, and he's too stern. And I was like, hey, he read a couple pages of that book. What are you gonna do? He was just like, nah, fuck it, whatever, dude. He read a book, thank God. And I was like, yeah, dude, yeah, thank God. True. He does be nice to him, but I always tell him, I was like, hey, give your son a hug at least, give him a hug. Don't just give him a
well,
hug.
you can't always have the hammer. It has to be a balance between sternness and affection. Even coming from your father as a man, to a young boy, there has to be a level of affection there so that they can understand what those emotions are like and see their father with those emotions and know that it's okay to have those emotions. So that's important as well.
Yeah, yeah. No, 120% agree. Cause like his ex-wife didn't show femininity. She just showed pure animalistic brutality. Like she was just beating everyone's ass for no fucking reason. She was just bad, horrible one. And the children think, cause they saw it from their mom, and babies love their mom, dude. Like children love their mom regardless. So like they thought they could do that to their dad, be kind of like literally disobey, be brutal to their own father. And when I showed up to the house one day and they were being mean like to their dad, and I was just like, yo, what was that? And then the kid would get quiet. And I was like, yeah, that's what I fucking thought, dude. I was like, you don't do that to your dad. You don't do that shit. I
How
don't
do
care.
parents feel about your conflicting parenting style? If it, not what they're accustomed to or what they've been doing with their kids, because some people don't like that.
No, yeah, it's how should I say when my parents were raising me, I was the youngest, so they called me the most. Yeah, dude, you could say it to my siblings, and they're right, but they're also wrong at the same time. Yeah, I was the most, the not
Coddled.
I
You were
have to.
coddled the most.
I was spoiled, the most spoiled. That's what they said. I was the most coddled, yeah. But just because you're coddled doesn't mean you're not going to get your ass beatings from your siblings. So it's like, you know, some gives, gives and some sacrifices. There we go. So like, I got my ass beat just for being spoiled. And I don't mind that. I don't mind that not one bit.
You got beat by your siblings,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Cause I was spoiled, but
right?
I do believe that I deserved some of the beatings, but not all the beatings. Like,
Why do you think you deserve some of them?
well, if I'm bad and I don't want to go to school, yeah, kick my ass.
Okay, something like that.
Yeah, but if it came to like, how should I say, when I was old enough, I think I was 15 or 16, my mom and dad, like they called me and I don't like this word, they called me a rat because like there was a time that there was a time that there was a big party in the house, right?
Right.
And you've heard it from that old like you remember what is it called? It's that drug free system from they were old drug free dare
Dare,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was it,
dare
yeah.
from back in the day. Yeah, so like I learned that you could get drunk and you could still die from choking on your vomit, or some idiots put a towel over the drain while they're showering just to fill the water, because it feels good because they're dehydrated and drunk.
Right.
And there was a time my brother, he was shit faced, and I was like 15, 16. And I remember he was like, I'm going to go shower. And he was just drunk, falling all over the place. And I was like, oh, yeah, you should go shower. And he locked the door, right? And I was like, oh, fuck no. I don't like you doing
Oh,
that.
language. We have kids. Kid
Oh,
listeners.
sure. My bad.
Go
That
ahead.
was part of my language. I was like, I do not like that he locked the door. I was like, Curtis, we got to open this door. And that was my other brother. Sorry about I name dropped that, but I love my brothers. I do. I love them. But there's a time that I was like, dude, he locked the door. And yeah, we were all, well, my brother wasn't scared. He was like, leave him alone. He's naked. And I was like, I don't care. We all saw each other when we were babies. Okay. I was like, so,
I think there's always that level of sibling beatings that you get because I was like, until my two youngest brothers came along, I was the youngest child. And I was, just like you said, I was called the rat. But I used to snitch just because my grandfather used to have a candy drawer. And so anytime I would come tell him stuff of what everybody else was doing, he would give me something out the candy drawer.
yeah,
So,
Oh.
that like they used to call me, huh?
yeah, yeah. Keep going.
Yeah, they used to call me a rat, and I mean they've done some horrible things to me. I remember again they fed me because I was a chunky kid, a little fat kid. They fed me a Kit Kat that the boys, like the older boys had like the middle room on the second floor, and their room was never fully cleaned. And I guess they had a Kit Kat that had been under the radiator for Lord knows how long, open. And they gave it to me to eat. They gave it to me to eat, and it was horrible. Like, now when you get older and you think about it, these things were so horrible. Like, I remember getting my ponytail caught in the fan and swinging with the fan until I dropped to the floor, and they would laugh and like it was funny. And in the moments now that we're older, we can look back at it and laugh on it, but like in the moments where I was that little girl, it was traumatizing.
Yeah, I feel you. Yeah.
Yeah, it was so traumatizing, but it comes with the territory too, because there were things that I was doing underhanded too to them in spite. So, I remember I threw all their G.I. Joes out in front of a bus. So they threw my baby doll stroller out in front of a bus,
Yeah.
like,
Look at, dude, you reminded me. Like after that whole ordeal, my mom and dad came home. They're like, "What's going on?" I was just like, "Curtis was letting your oldest child die in the shower." And dude, my brother looked at me with death eyes, and I was just like, "Yeah." And I was like, "And what, Curtis?" Then me and him were like fighting. We're on the floor, and then my mom and dad split it up. But it was like, yeah, funny. It's funny now. Funny now. It was like Chris was butt naked. I was like, Chris was butt naked in the shower dying. I was like, we're all laughing.
1 second, guys. We got some other callers in. Hey, Liz, how are you? Kiki, hello and welcome.
Evening. Good evening.
We would like to hear from you. We have a few questions. When we started, we kind of just had a little family reunion going on.
hey, Lizzie.
Hello, hello, hello.
So we have a few questions that we were asking today. Our topic was just talking about communicating with parents and how that varies based on location, demographics, religious backgrounds, core values and whatnot. And we have a few guiding questions to kind of frame our discussion for today. And I
Oh,
put them in. So tell me, what would you like to share with us? Were sex and relationships openly discussed in your house? Was it more of a taboo subject? And, the most important things you think should be communicated between parents and children about sex? How can both sides be comfortable?
well, let's see. Let's start here. Well, my mother was very open about talking about sex, mainly because her parents weren't. Her parents were older parents. Like, she was that change of life baby. So she had like siblings that were 20 years older than her. So by the time she came along, they were set in their ways and they were tired, and she was a quiet child too. So I guess they just assumed that they didn't really need to communicate with her like they did with the other kids. So she said she wasn't going to be that way with her own children. The funny thing is, she and my brother talk openly, like more than she and I did, about sex. Like, even as an adult, she even said to me once, she's like, "How come you never talk to me about sex? Your brother does." And I'm like, "Because I don't really need to talk to you about sex. I'm 25, but." So she did. Now, my father, on the other hand, partially because he was out of the home a lot, and then he grew up where kids weren't really allowed to have opinions and things like that. And
Right.
he kind of brought that into his home, or tried to anyway. But because he was gone a lot, my mother overruled, and so her way of child rearing is what really took hold, more so than his, luckily, thankfully. But yeah, from as young as I can remember, my mom was always like, I remember specific things she told me that stuck with me to this day. Like, number one, she said to me, if, I'm not trying to tell you to go out and have sex with a lot of people, because I don't believe in that, but I do think that you should test drive a car before you buy it, if you know what I mean. That's how she posed. That's how she opened up the conversation.
So you don't get
And
trapped in a
so,
relationship with someone that they're not satisfying or pleasing you.
exactly, that was her way of opening that conversation. And then, like, the birth control conversation, she was like, okay, when you think you've met that person who cares about you and who you care about. She made sure she
put that in there as well, then please come to me. We'll talk about it, and we'll go and make sure that you don't have any children, because just like Deborah's mom, my mom said, because you ain't bringing no kids in my house. You can have a child if you want to, but you're not bringing it.
Take care of it.
Yeah.
We're
So
down to
I
30
agree that was
seconds.
never an option.
We're down to 30 seconds. This 2-hour time span went by
Wow.
really quickly. Yeah.
Well, let me touch on the last thing right
Go
quick. I
ahead.
think
Go
one
ahead.
thing that should be talked about that we don't talk about enough, people need to start talking about emotions and feelings that you should have as it relates to sex. Too many people don't talk about that, and so their children are having sex with people that they just